It was one of those quizzy mornings when the sky looked like it couldn't decide whether to smile or cry. The mist hugged the hills, and the soft hum of the valley seemed to whisper secrets only the patient could hear. At the foot of a small Korean village, nestled between fields of rice and rows of chrysanthemums, lived a humble water carrier named Minho. He wasn't rich or famous, but everyone knew him, the boy who carried water from the mountain spring down to the village every morning before sunrise. Every day he walked the long, rocky path that twisted like a dragon's tail between the mountains. On his shoulders, he carried a wooden pole with 2 clay pots dangling on either end. One was new, shiny, and perfect. The other, well, it had a long crack running down its side. For years, that crack had been the pot's shame. Each morning, Minho filled both pots at the spring. He would balance the pole carefully across his shoulders and begin his journey home. But by the time he reached the village, the cracked pot was always half empty. Water dripped down its side, darkening the earth beneath it with every slow step Minho took. The unbroken pot, proud and gleaming in the morning light, always looked full and strong. The cracked pot, meanwhile, felt useless. It had once been new, strong and full of promise. But the day it slipped from Minho's hands years ago and hit a stone, everything changed. It still held water, but never enough, never all of it. One morning, as Minho poured water into the wooden barrels in front of his small home, the broken pot spoke softly. "Minho, I'm sorry." The boy paused. "Sorry? For what?" "For being broken," the pot said, its voice trembling like a whisper in the wind. "You work so hard every day, and yet I fail you. Half of what you carry is lost before we even reach home." Minho looked at the pot for a long time. Then he smiled, a gentle, almost secret kind of smile. "Don't worry, old friend," he said. "You've helped me more than you think." But the pot didn't understand. As the days passed, the unbroken pot began to boast. "See how full I am every day," it said proudly. "I bring Minho twice as much water as you." The cracked pot remained silent. It didn't want to argue. It only felt tired, tired of leaking, tired of trying to retain or hold its water, tired of disappointing Minho. At night, when Minho slept, the pot would stare at the stars from where it sat near the small garden. "If I could just be whole again," it whispered to the moon. "Maybe Minho would be proud of me and use me more often." But no matter how many mornings came, the crack never disappeared. One spring morning, something curious happened. Minho woke up earlier than usual. The air was cool and fresh from last night's rain. As he began his usual walk up the mountain, the cracked pot noticed something strange along the side of the road, the same side it always hung on. There were tiny buds poking through the soil, green shoots. The pot tilted slightly as Minho walked, watching the path as they climbed higher. Each step revealed more and more of them, sprouts, then stems, and soon little yellow flowers dancing gently in the breeze. The pot stared. "How strange," it thought. "There are no flowers on the other side of the path." When they reached the spring, the cracked pot couldn't hold back anymore. "Minho," it said, "why are there flowers along my side of the path but none on the other?" Minho smiled, his eyes reflecting the morning sun. "I was waiting for you to notice," he said softly. "For years, I've known about your crack. I knew you couldn't carry all the water back. So I decided to plant flower seeds along your side of the path. Every day as you leaked water, you watered them." The pot was silent. "You see," Minho continued, "if you weren't cracked, these flowers would never have grown. Now, people stop along this road every day to pick them for their homes and the temple. Even the old women who can't climb to the spring anymore get to smell the flowers you watered." The cracked pot trembled. It didn't know what to say. "You thought you were broken," Minho said, "but you were making the mountain more beautiful every step of the way." From that day on, the cracked pot no longer felt ashamed. It still leaked water, yes, but now every drop that fell felt meaningful. Each time the sunlight touched its side, it remembered that being broken didn't mean being useless. Sometimes, the very thing we see as a flaw is what allows goodness to flow through us. The perfect pot still carried water, but it had no flowers on its path. The cracked pot carried flowers, growth, beauty, and sunshine all along the road to the village. Years passed and Minho grew older. He eventually built a new home near the village school where children would gather to learn. Every spring he'd walk with them up the mountain path, showing them the line of wildflowers that still bloomed there. "Do you see these flowers?" he'd ask. The children would nod, wide-eyed and smiling. These were planted by a broken pot. They'd laugh, thinking he was telling a joke. But then he'd kneel and say, "Sometimes life cracks us open so that something more beautiful can grow through us." One evening, when Minho was very old, a young artist came to the village. She was tired of the city, of rejection, of people saying she wasn't good enough. She had tried to paint, to sing, to belong, but everywhere she went, people told her she wasn't good enough or she wasn't perfect. She stayed at Minho's home for a week, resting and helping him fetch water. One morning, she noticed the two pots. "You have a broken pot here, and why do you still use the broken one?" she asked. "Wouldn't it be easier to buy a new one?" Minho only smiled. "Easier, yes, but not better." He told her the story. That evening, she sat beside the cracked pot in the moonlight and whispered, "Thank you." When she returned to the city, she began painting again. This time she didn't try to make everything perfect. She painted the cracks, the flaws, and the shadows that made her art real. Her work went viral. People said her paintings felt alive. They didn't know it, but every brushstroke was inspired by a story she'd heard in a small village, a story about a broken pot that carried flowers. After Minho passed away, the villagers built a small stone bench along the flower path. On it they carved his favorite saying, "Even our cracks can carry beauty." And beside the bench they placed the old pot, its crack still visible but now filled with dried wildflowers. People who visited would touch it gently, as if it were sacred. Some came with tears in their eyes, whispering their own stories of feeling broken, lost, or unworthy. Maybe you felt like that pot, cracked, not enough, or like your best is never enough for the world. But remember this: your weakness might be watering something beautiful that you can't yet see. Maybe your kindness is feeding someone else's hope. Maybe your struggles are shaping someone else's strength. Maybe your scars are teaching others how to heal. In today's world, we are constantly told to fix ourselves, to be flawless, to filter out the parts that make us look imperfect. We compare our lives to others on social media, hiding our struggles behind perfect pictures and practiced smiles. But here's the truth. The people who make the biggest difference in the world are rarely the perfect ones. They are the ones who kept going even when they cracked. The single mother who still finds a way to smile for her children. The student who failed once but decided to try again. The friend who's been hurt but still chooses to care. The creator who shares their art even when it's not perfect. Just like the broken pot, these people may not realize it, but every small act of effort, kindness, and courage they give is watering someone else's garden. So the next time you feel like you're not good enough, remember, you don't need to be perfect to have purpose. You don't need to be whole to help others heal. Your cracks are not your shame, they are the pathways through which your light flows. So, in a world chasing perfection, be the one who waters flowers along the way. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, because somewhere out there is someone who needs to hear this very message. Bye-bye.